So, here I am, standing in front of a 60-foot ladder slung precariously across a 300-foot ravine, with a rapid waterfall crashing beneath it. "Welcome to the Devil's Throat," booms Chief Directing Staff Ant Middleton. My head is spinning and my heart is beating out of my chest. I feel physically sick. But there's a stubborn voice in my head urging me on. And in that moment, I know I'm going to have to make a choice. Do I listen to every instinct in my body to stay where I am? Or do I confront my fear head on in order to stay in the game? "Move it, 17, beckons Ant threateningly. And so I take a step forward. Last year, I was selected as one of the first ever females to participate in Channel 4's SAS Who Dares Wins, which, if you've ever seen it, you will know is one of the biggest tests of performance against adversity. Have you ever found yourself doing something you just didn't think possible? I was a 40-year-old woman with a profound fear of heights and water, and in the last week, I had forward abseiled down a 200-foot cliff face and submerged myself in ice holes high up in the frozen, expansive lakes of the Andes. I was competing with 24 other male and female recruits, and our survival was dependent upon the successful completion of some of the most punishing physical and mental tasks imaginable. And appearances can be deceptive because I haven't always been physically capable. Once upon a time, I was a very ordinary, overweight, unhealthy, inactive advertising executive. But I turned my life around, and as much to my own surprise as anyone else's, I'd become a pioneer within the fitness industry. I'd set up my own thriving business. I trained day in, day out for 15 years. I'd achieved a level of strength and fitness that rivaled some professional athletes. Mentally, I was strong, determined, stubborn, some would say. But inside, I was full of doubt and insecurity, an overwhelming sense that I was not capable, an overwhelming sense that I was not good enough. My mother had shown me what I felt to be a lifetime of disappointment, that I just didn't fit the mold of her ideal daughter in the way my sister did. And some years later, and for a period that spanned over half my life, I allowed my husband to control everything. He didn't think I was even capable of managing my own bank account. And frankly, neither did I. So I'd live my life in this sort of ecosystem of unsupportive behavior, always waiting for the approval of others to reach my full potential. And you know how sometimes you can just let things bubble under the surface for years and years before suddenly, and for no apparent reason, you decide to make a change? Well, that was me. And in the approach to my 40th year, I decided under remarkably unremarkable circumstances that life didn't have to be like that anymore. That life was not a foregone conclusion, and that the next 40 years of my life did not have to be a repeat of the first. I would be in control of what the next chapter of my life looked like. And so, with an almost paralyzing fear of the unknown and no idea how to run my life or my business without my husband doing it for me, I chose to leave. And that was the day I began to walk a new path. It was very far from easy, but I simply focused on taking one day at a time, going one step at a time. I was living in a high state of anxiety and on a fraction of the income that I'd been used to. I was dealing with new systems, bank accounts, taking meetings with solicitors and accountants, managing the day-to-day of my business with no idea of where I was headed. But every day, I trained my body. And every day, I made choices to be strong when I felt weak, to be assertive when I felt submissive, to keep going when I felt like giving up. I'm a huge believer in the idea of general physical preparedness, the idea that you're not training specifically for anything, but generally for life. And I came to lean on that physical resilience as a means to negotiate and navigate through the emotional turmoil of regaining control of my life, understanding my business, and negotiating a difficult and expensive divorce. So when I saw the ad for SAS Who Dares Wins inviting women to apply, I felt a sudden huge surge of adrenaline at the prospect. But that was quickly dampened by a return of those same old familiar feelings of self-doubt and insecurity. Was I really fit enough for that? Could I really compete with men on a level playing field? Was I too old? Would I be ridiculed? For goodness sake! My dear friend who sits before me today exclaimed in exasperation, "Will the real Vicki Anstey please stand up?" So there I was. I'd reached the final stages. I'd completed a 45-minute yomp up a 30% incline with a 50-pound Bergen weighing heavy on my back, the altitude eating away at my oxygen supply. There were 9 of us left, 5 women and 4 men, and the last to reach the top of the mountain would be eliminated. I was amongst the first, and I was elated. Welcome to the devil's throat. That elation didn't last long, and I found myself standing in a harness, wearing a crash helmet and waiting my turn. And as if I needed any more pressure, I was the last to go. "You can fucking do this, 17, commanded Ant. Another of the DS, Foxy, turned to me in slightly more encouraging tones and said, "Use that fear, 17. Do what you have to do. Get the job done." I took a deep breath in and swallowed the saliva building up in my mouth. Stubbornly, I took a step forward and grabbed the ropes. I'd spent the time waiting, watching, and counting the number of steps it took the other recruits to reach the other side. 30. 30 steps stood between me and success. All I had to do was put one foot in front of the other. Slowly, I began to move. Every step felt like a minute. And every time my heavy boot hit the metal rung of the ladder, there was a loud clanging, and the ladder would sway in response, trying to throw me off balance. I continued to take a step forward. Stop! I heard Ant's voice reverberate around the ravine, and I stopped dead in my tracks. Down! The voice continued, and I knew the drill. Halfway across, I had to squat. Slowly, I began to lower myself down. After 11 days of extreme physical exertion, sleep deprivation, and limited food, I was weak as hell. My thighs were trembling. Lower! The voice mocked at me. That stubborn voice in my head said, fuck you, and I took my seat all the way down to my heels. I waited for what felt like an eternity before. Carry on! I felt like my glutes were turning themselves inside out to come back up in perfect balance. But I was standing. I just performed the deepest, most perfect squat of my life, suspended 300 feet above the ground. 15 more steps to go. I began to count them. I was desperately trying not to look down, but in my peripheral vision, I could see everything: the height, the drop, the crashing water beneath me. But I continued to put one careful foot in front of the other until I had just one left. I'd made a choice, and I'd learned that sometimes overcoming even your biggest fear is just about putting one foot in front of the other. Special Forces training gives you no positive reinforcement whatsoever. They strip you down, deprive you of all recognition, all approval. They reduce you to being just a number. You learn to trust the power of your mind, to trust the process, to trust yourself. But the biggest test of that was yet to come.
Recruit to undertake the ice drill is number 17, Vicki, who now has to face her ultimate fear.
Right, when you're ready, submerge yourself, make your way to the second ice hole.
I think you can waste a lot of mental energy thinking about others and comparing yourself to others. I'm thinking, how will I do my best? How will I compete against me and the demons in my head?
Oh. Chill out, chill out. What is the number on the helicopter you flew in on?
27.
Look at me. Okay, breathe normally. Breathe normally. In your own time, when you're ready, make your way to the third ice hole.
I guess it's just the total loss of control. You have to put your whole faith in a completely unknown experience and a completely unknown outcome.
let's move. Fold around. To dry yourself off. Move that body. Get that fucking blood circulating. Quick as you can.
It took me a while to overcome fear. To really grasp how my fear worked. What my coping mechanism was.
So, here I am, the girl who was afraid of water, the girl who nearly drowned with her sister in the New Forest and carried that fear with her for 35 years, the girl who beat the ice holes. The human body has immense capability. We all have more potential than we think. Sometimes it really is just about taking one step in a different direction. Because now I have this almost tidal sense of power and possibility in my life. And this June, I and 3 other ordinary women will row the Pacific Ocean in an attempt to secure a new world record. 4,000 kilometers unaided from San Francisco to Hawaii. We will encounter 60-foot swells, sharks, sleep deprivation, extreme physical fatigue and injury. And I cannot wait. Fear exists in many forms. What are you most afraid of? Are you afraid of heights or water? Are you afraid of failure or success? Perhaps you're most afraid of what others think of you. And how might those barriers become the very doors that open to a better life? You don't have to do SAS training or row an ocean. But you could take one step in a different direction, and that might just change the whole course of your life. Thank you.